Is college really worth it? What's going on, guys? It's Sabby Sabs and I am back with another video. I hope my lighting is okay for you guys. It was pretty dreary out there today, as well as a little humid, but it is what it is. I got my ring light in the background. Got my ring light. Anywho, today we're going to talk about whether or not we think college is really worth it. Now, before we get started, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe below, and feel free to share to your friends as well. So, I've been getting this question often recently, especially given that some colleges have moved all of their classes to online or have given the option of online classes due to COVID. And that question is college really worth it? So as an administrator and someone who went to college, I feel like I've been on both sides, so I can help you answer this question. Now, here's the funny thing about that question. It's actually a trick question. There isn't really a hard yes. There isn't really a hard no. It's a little bit of both, and it actually really depends on you and your situation. So I'm gonna help you break down this question, and we're going to give you a couple of reasons why college is really worth it and why college is not really worth it. And then at the end, I want you to decide what you think in reference to yourself, if it would be worth it for you, or if you already went to college and you're looking back on it and you're wondering, was it really worth it? Got me a little iced green tea here from Dunkin', and look at my straw. No transfer. See? Lipstick? No transfer. Thanks, Kat Von D. Anywho, getting back to the question, is college really worth it? So one reason why I would say college may not be really worth it is because of the cost. So the cost of college has become more and more expensive. College has become less and less affordable, and now middle-class families and lower middle-class families and families that are below the poverty line are having difficulty trying to find ways to afford to send their kids to college. And that includes state schools, by the way. It's not just the private institutions that have gone up astronomically and have not adjusted for inflation. So the cost is one of the factors why people may say, well, I don't think that college is really worth it. Now, let me tell you why. If you go to a school where you paid, or your parents paid, $60,000 a year for you to go to that school, and that's just the tuition, not including room and board, okay? So that's a factor. 60 times 4 for the 4 years, that's gonna give you $240,000. That's insane. That is really, really insane, okay? Now, the problem is when you graduate from that university, 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna be in a job that's going to pay you $240,000 or $150,000 or $100,000. What you're going to be earning versus what you spent on your tuition to get that job, it doesn't seem to add up. So that's one of the reasons why people may say that college is not really worth it. One of the reasons why college is really worth it is because in college you get to discover your full self. Now, I know for me, I feel like when I went to undergrad, I really got to find out like who I was as a person. You're not with your parents anymore, not staying at your parents' house. I was living on campus, and then eventually I was living in an apartment. It was my first time really being away from my parents for an extended period of time on my own, responsible for my own decisions, responsible for what I ate, what I spent, how I lived my life. And you're surrounded by all these obstacles, whether it's classes and working part-time, and again, your parents are not there, so you have to make wise decisions for yourself. And I just felt like the community that was present at college, all the different clubs and organizations that I got involved in, it gave me the opportunity to really figure out who I was. Because when you're living with your parents, I feel like it's hard to do that sometimes because you're going by their rules and what they want you to do. And going to college, that was the first time I had to make my own rules and do what I wanted to do, but at the same time, I was still in school. That is the big difference. You still have the burden of, yes, you still have to be responsible enough to get up and go to your classes, and mom and dad aren't going to nudge you in the morning and tell you to wake up, you're running late. So for me, it really pushed me to figure out who I was, who Sabby Sabs was, and not just do what I'm told to do because that's how it was like in my parents' house. So for me, I felt like college is really worth it because it gives you the opportunity to really discover your true self, to figure out who you are. Now, that is not to say that people who don't go to college don't ever figure that out in life. That is not true. But what I will say is that it pushed me to do it early on. So like at 18, boom, I had to figure out who I was. And I did that through college and through the people that I met. So that is one reason why I would give it a yes. I think it is really worth it. Another reason why I would say that college is really worth it is because college introduces you to so many different people and different types of people that you normally may not meet if you stayed in the neighborhood that you grew up in or in the town that you grew up in. So, for example, in undergrad, I've met people that had never had classes with Black people before. I met people that had never seen Asian people before just because of the towns that they grew up in and the schools that they went to. I've met people who had never had international people like at their school or in their town or in their neighborhood. And so it's their first exposure to that. So that is another reason why I would say college is really worth it, is because you meet everybody at college. And I mean everybody, okay? You meet people who like to catwalk at night. You meet people who run down the street naked after chugging keg. You meet people who have lived in places that some of us may have only dreamed of. You meet people who are coming from low-income communities, middle-income communities, and wealthy communities, all in the same boat. That is one thing about college that I would say was amazing. Because when I got out of college and I started working professional job, I started to see those people less and less. I started not to have that diversity anymore, especially once you start working in a professional job. I noticed that, like, all of a sudden, I didn't see as many people that looked like me. All of a sudden, I didn't see as many people who came from, lower income communities. All of a sudden, I didn't meet as many people who had pretty much lived in all these different places in the world. It started to become less and less diverse. And I think about the fact that had I not gone to college, or maybe not me in particular, because I did live in different countries because I'm an Army brat, but for someone who grew up in a town where they maybe lived there their whole life and they never were exposed to this stuff, and they decide not to go to college and they decide not to venture out. Well, when do you get the exposure? Because what I noticed is, like I said, once I started working in a professional job, I saw less and less diversity, even till this day. Most of the time, I'm the only one. I'm usually the only Black person, like, in the office. Usually. So again, like, when do you get that exposure outside of that? I don't know. So yeah, college, definitely worth it. One of the reasons is because of the diversity. You get to meet so many different types of people. Now I gotta go back to the cons. One of the reasons that college is not really worth it is because a lot of the things that they teach you in the classroom, you can learn on your own. And I mean that a lot of this information for me came from a textbook, whereas I could have simply bought those textbooks, read them myself at home, and taught that information to myself, especially now with Google. I can Google a lot of things. So that is one thing I will say. Now, if you are in a program that is like experiential learning and it's hands-on in college, that is different. You're getting that hands-on experience. But most of the classes that I took in college were not hands-on experience. It was not that type of learning. It was straight from a textbook. And I paid for that. My parents paid for that. Something that I really could have done at home by myself. So that is one of the reasons why I would say that college may not really be worth it. Another reason why college may not really be worth it is because, let's face it, if you don't know what you want to do, what profession you want to do in life, and you're going to college because you don't know what you want to do, which a lot of people do, not hating on that, not hating on that. The problem with that is you end up graduating with a degree that you may not be able to use. So for example, you don't know what you want to do, but you do know that you like theater, or you do know that you like music. So you major in music, or you major in theater. But what's the likelihood that you're going to get a degree, or you'll get a degree, but what's the likelihood that you're going to get a job as an actor? Or what's the likelihood that you're going to get a job as a musician? And you don't need to go to college to become an actor. You don't need to go to college to become a musician. I see this sometimes too, where people will go to college and they'll major in like history because they like history. They don't really know what they want to do, but they like history. But what are you going to do with a history degree? There's a lot of degrees at colleges that really don't work in today's economy, in the 2020 economy. They just don't work, even before COVID. So that is also the reason why you see a lot of these smaller liberal arts schools starting to close, because they're getting degrees that they can't really apply to a profession, right? So that is one of the things I would say why college may not be really worth it, because you don't know what you want to do and you're getting a degree that you can't use. Another reason why college may not really be worth it is simply because it's too long. It's too long. 4 years. Most of what I learned in college that was 4 years, I could have done in 2 years. But they load you up with all these core classes like English 101 and Spanish 101 and classes that you don't even need for your major. You took English in high school. Some of us took chemistry in high school. Why I gotta take it again if it's not a part of my major? Somebody explain this to me. So half of the classes that I took in college did not even apply to my major. They were just core requirements or general ed requirements that everybody had to take because it was a part of the curriculum in order for you to graduate. Remove those classes from my transcript and I could have finished college in 2 years. It's just a way to get more money out of people. That's something I never understood. Did you know that in Germany, you can get a PhD in 3 years? Why is it that in the United States, it takes 5 to 7 years to get a PhD? You know why? Because they make you take all these BS classes. Like, cut that out, get straight to the research, get right down to what you need to do, and boom, graduate, you're done. But again, it's a way to get more money. It's a way to make more money out of people. So that's another reason why I would say college may not be really worth it, because it just takes too long and they waste a lot of time covering things that don't relate to your major and just to get money out of you. It doesn't make any sense. Here comes the tea. One of the reasons why college is really worth it is because depending on the profession that you want to go into, you have to have a college degree. This ain't my rule. This isn't my hub's rule. This is just how it is. This is how the economy works, how society works. So, for example, if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, a teacher, even if you want to be an administrator like me at a college, you have to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree. And all that is just a way to weed people out, to weed some people out. Now, obviously, if you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist, yes, you do have to go to extended schooling because that is a specialized practice. You need to know what you're doing. Can't be operating on people you don't know what you're doing. But for people like me, I'm an administrator. To get my job at a university, you need a master's degree. I had to get a master's degree. I don't understand. I really feel like someone who has a bachelor's can still do my job. But again, it's a way to weed people out, to cut down the number of applications and only focus on the ones that have the advanced degrees. So again, it's just one of those things. I mean, if you want to go into certain professions, you're not even going to get an interview if you don't have a bachelor's degree. So in that sense, yes, college is really worth it. Now, I went ahead and gave you guys some examples there. But one thing to note is that everyone's situation is different. There are people who graduate from high school and they go straight into construction. There are people that graduate from high school and they go straight into restaurant work. Like they start off as a host and they eventually become a manager at a restaurant. There are people who graduate from high school and get jobs where they're able to make enough and still provide for themselves or their family without college. And this is why a lot of people will say, well, no, college isn't really worth it. I got a job right out of high school and it pays enough to take care of me and my family. I didn't have to go to college. I didn't end up with student loan debt. And that's great. But then you have the other side of that, where there are these group of people that don't want to do those jobs. Everybody is not meant to be a construction worker. Everybody is not meant to be a general manager at a restaurant. If that were the case, we wouldn't have lawyers, doctors, dentists, teachers. So for some people, that path is great. And then for others, it's not. So the point is, you still need to have college available. Now, is it really worth it? Again, it's kind of a trick question. I just gave you examples why it is worth it, and I gave you examples why college is not really worth it. Can't really give you a yes or no for that. But in your opinion, from your experience, do you think college is really worth it? Comment below, let me know. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. Come back next time with more videos, and I'm gonna drink my tea with my lipstick that doesn't come off. Bye, guys.